Mm-hmm. I need like 2 computers for this. Like, this be lunch. Okay, we're live. We are live. It's so much different on. I need like 2 computers for this. Like YouTube. You hear it? Okay, I gotta mute this. Okay, I gotta mute it. But okay, we're live. So, wow, this is so confusing. Okay.
We got it.
We do have this. We do. So now we're just waiting on folks to hop in, but we can just start and then whoever comes will come. Hold on, ring light right. We trying to fall now.
Did you want a little bit of music?
I think we're fine without the music. Okay. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Hello, beautiful people, beautiful sisters, beautiful brothers, if you're watching. This is Sisters Heal Network, where we keep it real, okay? And I'm your host, Naya Bengaziani, and I got my sister, Kai Kelly, on the call with me. And to start off, I'm going to just spit a little poem to kind of get us grounded in the space, and then we're going to do a meditation, and then we're going to get into the discussion, okay? So let me get my poem out, y'all. I haven't written a poem in a long time, but I wrote this last night, so we're going to see how it goes. Here we go. My spirit walks the path of legacy. Intention in every movement of my sun shines the rays of healing. An embodiment of the Most High's image, can you feel it? The rhythms of our children's toddler two-step harmonizing with giggles of innocence. This is the blues turned golden. A strategy of legacy is what we call it, because movement takes purpose and purpose takes guidance. So I learn, then guide, you follow. This stride, we are making moves towards a place we can call melanin liberation. A sister once told me time moves through us, and immediately the image danced through my mind. Time is the frequency and energy that seems to be ignored the most. But when your time is up, that's when you claim you are losing hope. What is time? What is legacy? Mine is family, the nation under the Most High, and detached from this oppressor who suppressed our mind to make us believe that we are not what we are, that which is divine. Ancestors who lived a life so that we can be their dreams. But lately, we've mirrored nightmares, something never told and never thought to be seen. How do we shift the narrative of the divide, put our mind to the liberation and action of what's always been inside? It's time. Elevate and escape the rewind.
All right now.
Yes, so that's my piece. I just wanted to share. I always like to share a piece of art in these shows because that's also a piece of me. And this show is an extension of who I am and why I do what I do. So, yes, in all of the fields. Now we're going to get into the guided meditation, which is something small and real quick. We're just going to get grounded in our breathing and just sit up so you can fully feel the energy flow through you. You're going to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. Now, I just want you to get grounded in yourself and stand in your garden that you're going to be planting today. And around you, you see all of these weeds. These are weeds of negativity, weeds of challenges, weeds of just things that are blocking you from doing the work that you need to do and planting the seeds that you need to plant. So what we're doing right now is we're pulling these weeds We're pulling them out of our garden because they are not ours and they don't deserve to be here. They don't deserve to live inside of our peace and inside of our love. And they just are going to disappear from this garden. Okay. And what we're going to do next is we're just going to plant seeds. We're planting seeds of positivity. We're planting seeds of love. We're planting seeds of legacy. And we're planting seeds of strategy, right? Because it takes a blueprint in order to reach a goal. We can't just plant the seeds and not water them and not nurture them, right? So we're planting these seeds today. And throughout this talk, we're going to nurture those seeds. We're going to water those seeds. We're going to let people know what are some solutions to getting to a place of legacy, to a place of liberation, right? We're going to talk about some different strategies. We're going to talk about all of these different things in order to pour into not only our garden, but ourselves, right? Because our gardens are an extension of our soul, our spirit, our love for who we are and why we do the things we do. So today, that is our grounding for Sisters Heal Network, leaving a legacy. Okay. Like I said, my name is Naya Bengaziani. I'm your host. I'm also the founder of the Sisters Collective. I started this show and space just to create and cultivate an experience where Black women can come together to heal, to love, to be themselves, to be in joy, and just to have conversations, real conversations about what's going on in the world and how it affects us, how it impacts us. It's a lot of spaces for women of color. It's a lot of spaces for just people of color in general. And I don't like to identify with them people of color because I am a Black woman. So I wanted to create spaces for Black women to come together and be like, okay, this is us. Let's talk about something real that only we can understand as Black women. And that's where Sisters Heal was born. Okay, Sisters Heal, where we keep it real. And my sister Kai is on the call, and I just want her to give an introduction of who she is, why she does what she does, and all of the things. So, Sister Kai, it's on you.
Greetings. I'm so grateful to be here. I am Sister Kai, or Kai. Go by Kai Kelly. Kai is actually a nickname, and I am a published author. I've been writing for a very long time, and I write poetry. I coach others that want to get into getting published and self-published. I do speaking engagements. And I'm very passionate about our community. I'm very passionate about my Blackness. And today is Nia of Kwanzaa, which is very, very important to me. So I'm giving all of my, energy. Behind me is my virtual background, which I made. It's a picture that I took of the last full moon of the decade. So it's the last full moon. It's called the cold moon. And I think that moons are very relative to manifestation energy. And so I thought it would be appropriate for today's talk.
Thank you so much, Sister Kai. I just received all of that energy. If you follow me on Instagram under the Sisters Collective, my business page, I talked about how me and Sister Kai met. We met because I was on one of my networking binges on Instagram, and I messaged her randomly, and I was like, hey, sister, this is what I do. If you want to follow my YouTube page, check it out, blah, blah, blah. And then she was like, yeah. And then we started connecting, and it was just automatically like you can feel the genuine energy from one another. And we were like, okay, we got to take this to the next step. What's next? Let's schedule a phone call. 45 minutes turned into almost 3 hours of having a conversation. And I just appreciate the wisdom that this woman has. And I was like, you have to come on my show. It's the only way, because we need to share with the people what you share with me. We can't keep it to ourselves. That's the point. Like, a lot of people like to keep information to themselves when we're supposed to be passing down the knowledge, passing down the wisdom, so we can all grow and we can all get to that space of liberation. Okay. And we're going to talk about what that means today. So, next, we're going to get into the discussion. Okay, so this discussion is very organic. I definitely have some like guided questions that I've sent Sister Kai, and we're gonna definitely go off of those. But as the conversation flows and glows, we're gonna do what we need to do. So our first question today is, what does legacy mean to you, Sister Kai?
Legacy. So when we think of legacy, we think of what we're leaving behind or what we're passing down. So I wrote something out about it that I want to read. What we leave behind in the form of our gifts, talents, and energy for those after us to build on. So I think that is what we're speaking of when we speak of what a legacy is. So we have all come from legacies, and we will all leave a legacy. A legacy is what we will be remembered for. It is also our contribution while we were on this planet. So whatever that's going to be, if you are a basketball great, your legacy will be how many championships you had, how many rebounds, and who you were as an individual. And I think on a broader spectrum, the legacy is, for Black people, our legacy is about what have we done in our lifetime to make it easier, better, faster, more ingenious for those that are going to come after us. So the civil rights era, I think that they crawled so that many of us right now would be able to walk. They got killed to go exercise their right to vote. They got killed for dating white women. They got killed for these things. And I think that, when we have to sit with that. But I don't want, I'm gonna let you, I don't want to go too deep in the rest of my stuff, but yes, so legacy is what we're going to leave behind in the form of our gifts, our energy, and our talents.
I think that's so important. And something that you said that really sparked a thought inside my mind is the building part, right? Mm-hmm. That part, that word really stuck out to me, because I'm like, okay, when we talk about building, you have to have a foundation, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like the foundation is what we actually, like you said, leave behind, our gifts and all of these other things. And I feel like some folks have forgot that process. I think it was so important back in the day when we didn't have really the power of writing it down, that voice and like storytelling. It goes back to the griots, all of that stuff was ways in which folks can pass down those traditions, those beliefs, those morals, and, just the stories of all of the different times that folks have experienced. And then, you can also think about Egypt with the hieroglyphics. That is a form of foundation. That is a form of basically starting a legacy, right? But I feel like we've gotten to a place where folks aren't really so much worried about legacy. Everybody, I'm actually reading a book right now. I won't say the book because, it can be a little controversial, but we are talking about in the book how she talks about like just being soloed off, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody is so focused on themselves right now. Like, we're not even in the mindset of family anymore. Like, there's different cultures who stay at home until they're married, and then they move out, make sure they got a house when they move out. But everybody is so like, I need to get my own. I need to get my own. I need to get my own apartment. I need to do this. I need to do that. Like, what are your thoughts on that with this whole, like, I need to be to myself. It's about me and mine, not about me and ours.
I think that is a remnant of the construct of white supremacy. So prior to the 80s, really, the Black family structure was pretty much intact. We were very, not only were we Black business owners and proprietors, but we were also very reliant on each other. We were very integrated into the comings and goings of our neighbors. We participated in the rearing of other people's children. Families were considered expanded out beyond just your immediate family, and a home was considered a home for anyone who was related, right? So it wasn't unusual for a grandmother to have, you know, her child and then cousins or nieces or nephews or anyone who needed to be there at that time. And everyone, you know, had that sort of community, sense of community. That is one thing that has been tremendously stripped away from the Black family. This idea of this pressure, the societal pressure, I believe, of having to make it and to forge a way on your own and to identify as self-made it's been stolen from people. It's been stolen from a culture of people who have already had their legacy laid out for them, right? So the Black culture in many ways is mimicking a culture that has had a lead in the foot race, if you will. And so we are not dealing with the same dynamics. So for Black children to have the same idea that all they have to do is, you know, get out the house, make $1 million and life will be good. They're not exercising and moving from the same space that their counterparts are, which is that normally there is a trust, there is a fund, there are, you know, life insurance policies that are left that you'll get paid at 20, you'll get paid at 25. So where, you know, our children are grinding it out and really wearing themselves down to a nub, white children are able to move fluidly for the most part. And please, I'm not suggesting that every white child in America has a trust fund or anything. So I don't want anybody taking that. But what I'm saying is for the most part, the children that are of the privileged population are able to be very true to themselves, right? So they're not rushing to go into a career. They're not rushing to sit at a desk. They're not rushing to do any of those things. They're going to travel and see the world. They're going to, you know, spend some different time with their energy and figure out what it is that gives them, they feel a sense of purpose in. And they're going to be supported in that. So if they want to, you know, start a beehive, or if they want to go surfing in different places for a year, their parents are going to say, okay, and when you're done, you have to go to school or whatever, you know. So I think we've definitely gotten away from that, but I don't think that is 100%. I don't think that it's our fault. I think that we've been pressured into that ideology. And we are also so environmentally stimulated constantly that we feel a need more so than I think anybody else for aloneness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we want to be, you know, and also a lot of times our environments are filled with trauma. So the response to get away from toxic motherhood, absentee father, poverty, you know, the response is you don't want to continue to stay in that environment normally. You want to get away and see if you could do something different. Where these other cultures, their environment may also include trauma, but it also includes the space for them to figure it out.
Right. The space and the resources.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of like Black families who probably want to build that. Like, it's a lot of Black families right now working on building generational wealth. Like my family, we are trying to have these different like resources for my daughter Afia. Once she gets of age, she needs to own property. She needs to have credit already established. We need to have some life insurance policies on ourselves. Like, all of these different things is what we're thinking about, but everybody isn't always exposed to that information. And then when they are exposed to the information, it's like a reputation of it to believe that it's for white folks to do. It's not for
Mhm.
Black people to do. That's everybody's favorite term. Like, oh, that's
Mhm.
white people stuff. Or we don't do that. We focus over here, like just like therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
Black folks in mental health do not connect all the time because people feel like I'm not supposed to be telling you my business. All the trauma
Mhm.
that I experience needs to stay within my household and stay within my family, which is not healthy. It's very toxic, actually. And it's like, it's okay if you don't want to talk to somebody that you don't know, but you need to release those emotions and release those energies and feelings, or you're going to go into that space of feeling alone, and then you're going to go into the anxiety and the depression and all of that, like, because your mental, your physical, and your spiritual are all interconnected. So when one is off, everything else is too. You know what I'm saying?
But we have to remember and sit with the fact that the reason we don't have a normalized relationship with mental health is that mental health would be considered part of self-care, and we have not historically had a relationship with self-care
Right.
because we are the pillars and the foundation of caring for everyone else. So
Right.
if you think about the fact that there's never been a space or a time in the
Right.
history of the Black community where we have been our own priority,
Right.
emotionally, psychologically, physically, any type of way have we been the priority. Imagine that it hasn't been 100 years, it hasn't been 60 years since a white racist could walk into your house and burn your house to the ground, rape your wife.
Right.
So you don't have any control over anything that's going to happen to you. You
Right.
don't even have the beginning legs of self-care. You don't even have the beginning legs of learning or knowing what depression or anxiety is, because your whole existence is survival.
Right.
So we are just getting to a space through the millennial generation, I think, that self-care is becoming more normalized, and also crossing the gender lines. So it's not just my responsibility to do self-care as a woman, but normalizing it for Black men, normalizing it for children,
Mhm.
normalizing it for anyone who's going through different things. Black people, the other reason we have to be clear about why you know um, the Black community doesn't seek out mental health professionals is because the healthcare professional
Are white.
industry does not have a history of
Right.
treating us correctly. They
Right.
have a history of demonizing us, taking our children, breaking up our families, destroying our bodies, our mind.
Right.
So there's not a relationship built on trust.
Right. This
There's
is
not there's not a relationship where we can say, you know what, I went to that white man and I told him, what was going on in my life, and everything turned out okay.
right.
We
It's
don't have a
never gonna be
relationship
that.
like that.
It's never gonna be that. It's never
Mm-mm.
gonna be that. And like you brought it up too, and it's just like the term that I want to bring up as well is like generational trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like things that are like inside of us. It's in our
Mm-hmm.
bloodline. It's flowing through our bodies right now
Mm-hmm.
of what our ancestors have already been through. So just because we didn't experience it firsthand how they did, we still have those memories inside of us, and it makes us
Absolutely.
not trust, like you said, the people who claim they are here to take care of us, but really they're trying to destroy us and exterminate us and just all
Mm-hmm.
of these different things, right? So I feel like that is super important, and it kind of it's kind of a segue, but kind of off to the whole idea of the spiritual foundation of legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about generational trauma, that has to really do with our souls, because our souls carry all of that energy, right? And our souls are under the Most High, and that's what I believe. So, how do you feel like your spirituality connects to the legacy that you are leaving for your children and just like Black folks as a community in general?
I think that the first thing when you talk about spirituality, I think it's knowing oneself, right? It's knowing It's knowing that you're sitting in an existing legacy. So when you talk about a spiritual foundation for your legacy, you have to first identify that you have experienced, you're an existing example of a legacy, which good, bad, or indifferent, you're part of a legacy, right? Then the next thing is to tap into the parts of that legacy that you need to unlearn, the parts that are not healthy, the parts that don't serve love, the parts that don't serve joy, the parts that don't serve prosperity. If for 4 generations your family has lived in public housing, if for 4 generations every time someone dies you have to sell t-shirts and do a fish fry, if that has been your legacy, then obviously there's something that's not working. So then you have to be able to identify and make the change. And I think the part that Black people, for me right now, are trapped at is the change, because we like to sit in the known. We like to sit in, well, grandma always went to church and, she lived to be 90, or so-and-so, ate pork every day and they lived, we like to sit in the things that are already known, as opposed to understanding that just because it used to get done a certain way doesn't mean it gets continued to get done. Just because kids used to get beat with a switch and a belt and an extension cord doesn't mean you have to keep beating your children. There are new ways. We learn over time, right? We learn over time and access to information that there are improved ways of doing things.
Right. And it's not only that it's like improved ways of actually following through with the task, but it's thinking about like the different things that folks mention, like, oh, my grandmother did this, or, oh, I got my children vaccines. These are way more advanced. Just like the research advances for things that are like better and innovative ways to take care of our children and to do these different things, the things that are supposed to hurt us and an attack on our bodies, our souls, our spirits, like all of these different things, those are also getting more advanced. And I think like for folks who are more old school and go towards more of the traditional ways of thinking, it's kind of hard for them to step out of that traditional box, because they're like, well, I did it for my kids, so why can't you do it for yours? Because I don't prescribe to that. I don't subscribe to that. I don't believe that that's the way I want to raise my daughter. I don't want to ingest that into her body. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's hard to have those conversations, because it's like the line of, I'm just trying to be respectful. So I know that it's only so much that I can say to you, because at the end of the day, you're still my elder and I still respect you for who you are and the wisdom that you do hold. But in other regards, this is my daughter and this is what I believe and this is how I'm gonna move,
But you're changing, and you're doing exactly what we already discussed, which is you're changing the narrative and you're creating a different code in her DNA than what was left in your DNA. But that takes courage. We have to understand that whenever you walk against the norm, whenever you do something different, whenever everyone else has always done it one way, and you're going to be on the other side of that line, you're going to deal with the scrutiny. You're going to deal with the naysayers. You're going to deal with, and you can be 100% right? So I stopped eating beef and pork before I became a teenager. I was young, right? I just decided, I was like, I'm not eating. I read Malcolm X's autobiography and I was like, I'm not eating this stuff. I never was huge on it. I think the only thing that I really loved was like crispy bacon, to go with my waffles. But other than that, I wasn't like a huge one. So I just let it go.
Yeah.
Do you know how much criticism? Do you know, even my grandmother said, you better not become a Muslim, like that was her main concern. I'm like, now I'm reading in the book where it's telling me all the different horrible attributes and how people that eat meat, all the different things. So we have, the data is there, the information's there, the relationships have already been demonstrated and illustrated, and especially in our community.
Right.
But yet everyone would treat me like I was this weirdo for eating differently than they ate, So, and when I started my natural hair journey, I got locks. It started my locks when I was in high school, and I got teased bad. I got teased. People they thought it was funny. They thought it was, it's like letting my hair grow out the natural way it comes out of my scalp and not doing anything to it is offending you guys. It's confusing to me. But you have to have a strong sense of self, which goes back to what we talked about. The foundation of the spiritual foundation of the legacy is understanding who and whom's you are, understanding that Black spirituality for Black people starts way before Jesus ever became an inkling in an eye. Okay. So Black people, when Black people act like burning incense and burning sage is, anti-Christ, or you're a witch, it's like, who taught you that? Who taught you that connecting with your highest energy, which is yourself? We are our highest energy. Who taught you that connecting with that was not a thing to do? That's a learned behavior that you have to unlearn.
Right. And something my partner, my man says, which really I feel it with all my heart, because when you're fresh and like budding, we like to call it, into your spiritual self, you get very tunnel vision, right? You only see what you're learning, and you're so passionate about it, and you're trying to convert everybody, but that's not the way. You know what I'm saying? And something that he says that really I feel like folks should hear is religion is basically spiritual training wheels for spirituality, right? And that just speaks to me so much, because I think it's beautiful that folks grow up with a sense of belief, with a sense of faith. I grew up in the church, Baptist church, right? And will I say that I'm a Baptist now? No, I will not. But I am a very spiritual person. I do believe in the Most High, okay? And that's just where I'm at right now. And I'm reading more. I'm trying to learn more about myself. And I also have come to the consensus that the most important thing about my spirituality is my relationship with the Most High. Sometimes folks get stuck in the doctrine. They get stuck in the whole routine of church and the routine of all of these different things. And then they start to lose themselves in that. And then they're not even focusing on the Most High. You're not even reading your Bible, but that's something that your doctrine depends on for you to do, So it's just stuff like that I feel like is also necessary to talk about when we're talking about spirituality and we're talking about the spiritual foundation of legacy, because a part of knowing yourself is knowing what you believe in. It's knowing your faith, and knowing your faith and knowing what you believe in doesn't mean that you have to make other people believe that. That's what I had to learn, because I'm a very passionate person. And when I believe something, I feel like I want my people to believe something. Like when I was budding in my spiritual higher self, I was very like, you have to listen to me though. You have to listen to me. And then I started to grow. I started to gain more wisdom, and I started to get more quiet. Right? You don't need to know what I practice. If you ask, I'm willing to share. And I'm not judging you on what you practice. And I'm not saying that you should practice what I practice. But that's something that you have to learn. That's something that you have to grow into. It doesn't just like happen like that. Like everybody goes through like the rah, 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 right? And that's just something that I feel like folks should know, because I feel like that'll help you on your journey and your legacy of knowing that once you stand in that and you're comfortable in that, and then you start growing and reading more and building on that even more, that's going to take you to the next level of your higher self.
But at some point what you understand, much like I understood when I stopped eating meat. Everybody can't go with you. Everybody's not ordained. Everyone cannot go with you. Everyone is not going to get to the same finish line. There is a population of people that unfortunately are the lost. right? And you can't save everybody. So, and you don't have a responsibility to save everyone through, pulling them with you. Your responsibility to people is to be the light. Simply be the light, be the example. Now, if they want to hop on board, absolutely great. But you think that I ran around and tried to convert everyone in my family from eating pork and beef? Absolutely not. I surely did not. I still do not. I know how to cook. I know how to eat. I know how to eat in any situation that I'm in. And I know how to decline to eat anything if it doesn't serve me, right? So once you have that level of confidence and strength in what you know to be correct,
right,
you don't have to worry about what they know or what they don't know, what they do or what they don't do, because it doesn't affect you.
right.
When it's time for them to get there, they will get there. If it's never time for them to get there, they weren't meant to come.
Exactly. And like the law of attraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you put out is what you're going to like basically receive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's like the energies and all of that stuff. So that also works with people, that works with relationships, right? So when you start to step into your higher self and you start accepting that you cannot convert everybody is not for you, and all of those different things,
Mm-hmm.
then you start to attract people into your life who believes in what you believe in, because that's what you're putting out there. This is the
Mm-hmm.
energy that you're holding. And then like just recognizing that your partners are basically an extension of you as well,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you attracted into your life. It's something about them that is inside of you. So I think like that's super important to think about as well when it comes to like folks who are always like, why do I keep on getting these men, or why do I keep on getting this type of energy? I don't understand. It's you, sis.
I have something coming out. I have something coming out called "It's Not Them, It's You," and it actually talks about that, because I had my own journey with continuing to attract the same. I'm like, this is literally the same person with a different name. This
Right.
can't be life. So at some point, you have to say to yourself, what is it about me that's making this possible? Because I'm making it possible, right?
Yeah.
So but the thing is, sis, what ends up happening with people is that a lot of times we find that the uncomfortableness of it all,
Right.
a lot of us will not want to sit with that uncomfortableness, because that somehow, means that we're not perfect.
Right.
That somehow means that we're flawed. And if we sit with the fact that we're flawed and we're not perfect and we don't have it all figured out,
Right.
and that it could have possibly been us that was toxic, or us that was unhealed, or us that was not ready for a relationship, now all of a sudden the narrative changes. It's not as sexy. It's not a battle story anymore. It's not something that you want to repeat, because everybody wants a villain. Everyone wants to be a victim, and everybody wants a villain. So I think that law of attraction is incredible, because even in people enter into a relationship, a friendship, or anything with fear, and we cannot get into a place. You can't get something from a thing that you are not willing to put into it. So if you enter into that relationship, you enter into that new job, you enter into that friendship with, oh, they just going to do me how everybody else always does me, or,
That's
that
what's
negativity, that's what you're going to get.
Exactly.
That's what you're going to get.
Exactly.
Our words are not only words, but our words are spells. Our words are spells and
you're
curses.
Putting it out there.
Our words are spells and curses. Just depending on how you string your words together, you can speak life or death over a situation.
Life or death. Come on with it. And that's so important. I have to remind myself daily. And I was going to say this too, but I forgot about it. When it comes to like unlearning things, it's like you have to be so conscious and aware of like how you are, how you speak, how you respond. Responding is so important, because how you respond is going to determine the domino after the fact, right? And in that, it's like, what are you like? I have to be so mindful about what I say. Like, even the simplest things, like when I'm on my way home from my baby, it's not a lot of parks around my apartment. I say, Fia, we're gonna get a park right by our apartment. Like something so simple, but I say it every day because I do not feel like walking all the way from the back of the parking lot to over here, you know? And it's just like, just putting that positive energy out there, like being a co-creator with the Most High, you know what I'm saying, is super important and super like it validates everything that like the faith and all of that, because it's like, okay, I need to speak life like you said, because I don't want any negativity. And that happens like when you allow people into your life who have this negative energy. We was just talking about this last night, right? That's also important. That's also the law of attraction, like allowing these people to come into your life, and then like you're taking on their energy, you're taking on their depression, you're taking on their sadness, you're taking on their negativity. Like all of that is so essential to your legacy, because what are you leaving behind? What are you accepting? What are you showing your daughter that that's what you accept when it comes to friendships or relationships, you know?
And the universe is responsive. So the universe is only going to respond to what we give it. So if we want to live life abundantly, we want to be prosperous, we want to be healthy, we want to be well, we have to give the universe that energy. We have a mindset a lot of times, I think, of, you know, and this comes from the deep roots of Christianity, of just pray over it and it'll happen. And even in that word, it says that faith without works is dead. So if you're overweight, sis, you're not gonna lose that weight by just
so you work it out. Change your habits.
You're gonna have to put some elbow grease in it. Okay, a magic pill is not gonna do it. Okay. Exactly. So I think that, you know, it's important for us to be cognizant of the fact that we are not helpless in the narrative of our lives. We are not, we are the constructors of that. And like you said, co-creators with the universe. So we're actually speaking our lives into existence as we're experiencing it.
Oh my gosh. It's getting too real. And we almost at time already. Okay, let me see. We could do a couple more questions. Okay, this is a good one, and I think it'll probably be the last one because we'll probably go on a little binge of other conversations. But is legacy only personal to you and your immediate family, or can it extend to the Black community?
Legacy extends to the Black community. And the reason why it extends to the Black community and to the community at large is because whether we like it or not, whether we asked for it or not, we are all interconnected. We are all recipients and experiencing, sorry, some random noise. We are all experiencing things as a result of us all living on this planet together, right? So what does that mean? We look at, you know, people that have come before us, and things that people have done. Famous, you know, car dealership guy, Henry Ford, gazillionaire, you know, but he started buying up the medical industry, right? So he is largely responsible as part of his legacy, not just wealth. He's largely responsible for a lot of the medical misconduct and a lot of the issues with big pharma, okay? That's part of his legacy. So I didn't know him. I don't know his kids. Am I impacted by that? Absolutely. So our legacy does not just extend into our household. That's why the first part of your legacy is yourself. You can't help anybody else. You can't give back to the people. Say, well, how do you give back to you give back to the community first by being a productive member of society, by being the best you that you can be. Then you can put your mask on, the person next to you and help them out. So yes, we're all connected. And as the sooner we realize that and the sooner we operate in that way, right. The further we'll get, the further we'll be.
Right? Like I just did this training for this organization that reached out to me, and the training was called the Seeds of Self-Care. It's actually like a philosophy and strategy and tool that I created for folks basically like planting their seeds of self-care into their garden and pouring into themselves so they can take more time for who they are and why they are. So when they're giving to other people, what they're giving is not toxic energy, but it's actually healthy because they've actually taken care of themselves. And when you said that, it just really spoke to me, because something that I said in the training is, you cannot pour into other people's garden before you pour into your own. Even on the last episode of Sistaaz Hill Network, the Power of Black Women, we were talking about this. It came up because when we think about the scripture, like your cup runneth over, right? With blessings and all of this, your cup cannot runneth over if you're always pouring into other people's cup every time you get some water in your cup, right? You have to let that cup fill up so it can naturally come out and go to people around you. Like, even if it's your daughter, you cannot be pouring into her cup what you need, because then you're going to be irritable. You're not going to be in the right space mentally, physically, and spiritually to support her. So now she's getting your water that you were supposed to get. And that trickles down to you not being in the right space to really give your daughter what she needs, the love, the nurturing, all of that stuff. So just because folks are close to us and they're our family and all of these other things, we cannot just allow folks to just take those pieces of us, because when we allow them to do that, then like you said, we cannot be our best selves. And that's also important to think about for work, like nonprofits and even corporations. You know what I'm saying? They expect a lot out of you, some of which is not always in your job description, but that's what you signed up for when you accept that check every 2 weeks, right? But in that, it's knowing like, okay, sometimes I need to not say yes to everything that is volunteer based, because I'm going to burn myself out. And when I burn myself out, then I'm not going to be at my best self. And then what? I'm having a conversation with the ED, or I'm having a conversation with my supervisor about how I'm not doing the work that I need to do because I was just doing so much for this company or for this organization. And now I'm burnt out and I need a break. I ain't got no more time to take because I already took it because I was sick. Just all of these things, the domino that happens, the storms that we go into because we weren't proactive, or we weren't prepared to handle these situations because we were too busy giving and giving and giving, and we weren't giving back to ourselves, So I think that's like essential to think about when we think about legacy and we say it extends to the Black community. Yes, it does extend to the Black community, but what are we doing to take care of ourselves first? And I think that was super, like, I really appreciate you for bringing that up. Like, that is super important. And then last thing on my mind, I'm a talker. So it's just like when people, it's always like, every time people have conversations like this, it's always that sentence that comes up, and Black people this, and Black people that, and Black people this. But if everyone focused on what Michael Jackson say, the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror, we can all get to a better space to actually be able to build on that foundation and build on that legacy. Because when we're so focused on other people, we're not really focused on ourselves. We're not really growing in ourselves. So I feel like that is just super, super important to liberation, to escaping this white supremacy system, and not always trying to help other groups before we help ourselves. Like, it's not only helping ourselves, but it's also helping other cultures. That bothers me too. Black people are so willing to like just give to other movements, and we ain't willing to give to our own movements. And some movements that we give into that are within our community are not funded by our community or not for our community, you know? So
I think that, you know, one of the things that's interesting is that, you know, there have been a lot of talk of race riots and of war, civil war, you know, and unrest breaking out. And, you know, my question was, how many of people that were screaming that at the top of their lungs actually know how to locate water in the woods? How many of those people know how to start a fire? How many of those people know how to load and clean a gun and fire a gun? How many of those people are able to have a gun?
right.
How many of those people are able to drive defensively and in stressful situations? So here's the thing. And that's why I say the first part of the knowledge is understanding your own deficiencies.
Oh my God.
If you don't have a passport, if you are not able to travel, if you haven't even attempted to learn other languages,
Right.
are you actually equipped for a war? Are you equipped for civil unrest?
Because I know I'm not. Okay, I need to get
right.
Okay, I need a blueprint. I need a strategy, sis. I need some equipment to get equipped because I am not there.
I mean, do you know how to sleep in the woods? Do you know
right.
how to make sure that you get found if you get lost in the woods?
Right.
Do you know how to keep yourself from getting lost if you get in the woods? Like,
grow food. Do we know how to grow food?
Grow food. You know, do we know what food is seasonal?
Right.
These are things that before you get into the passionate, you know, race riots and we're going to rebel, you know, let's just make sure we're going to be able to eat, have water, electricity that's off the grid. You know, let's make sure we're going to have some basic things going on. And I'm not, and trust me, there are a population of people that could check off every box. But it's not as high as the voices of here's what we got to do, you know, and it's like it's not as high.
Where's the action though? That's taking things out of the abstract. That's my favorite thing right now. Like the phrase, like we're taking it out of the abstract and we're putting it into practice. How do we put things into practice and like get out of, it's just like people who have been in school for a long time and then they get into the work and they don't really have the experience, but the people who have the experience don't always have the education, and then
come on and preach. Like, come on
between it. So I think it's like the same thing with that. Like some people got the lingo, you got the key terms, you got the vocabulary to talk about it, but these people have actually been in high stress situations. They know how to de-escalate. They know how to talk to these children, and maybe they're in school right now and they haven't got, like me, you know what I'm saying? I got experience. I got 5 or 6 years of experience of working with young folks, and now I'm back in school trying to get my bachelor's in child and adolescent development, and I graduated this year, you know what I'm saying? But it's some people who just been in school that they trying to go off the books, and you can't go off the books because when you're in the experience of things are not always going to go by the book. They're not always going to go as planned. So how are we ready for every scenario? And also, how are you ready to like act when things are not in your head? What are you going to do next?
I think that there's a lot of degreed individuals who are not qualified, and I think there are a lot of qualified individuals who are not degreed. So I know that a degree does not make or break your knowledge base. I know that a degree does not make or, what a degree does is enable you to sit at the table and have a seat at the table and access the rooms.
Open that door.
That's a requirement. It does not mean that you are in fact qualified.
Exactly. Right. All of this. I feel all of this. Yes.
So, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not saying that I have a lot of people in my life that are college educated, and I love them all, and I agree, but I have also seen people, you know, come from the mud, you know, get it out the mud, as they say, and are extraordinarily talented and gifted. So I think that the way that we move forward and the ways that you put things into action are that you continue to have, so people have the expectation of these huge rewards, right? Everybody wants it now, and especially in this generation, everyone wants to see these outcomes and these, they want to see rapid fire.
Right.
Rapid fire is not what we're going to have, sweetie. It's not going to happen like that. The way that it happens
for the next generation,
the way that it happens is that we all put our elbow grease in.
Right.
We all put the work in. We all do the most of the most with our dash and the time that we have on this planet.
Yes.
And it extends down to the next generation.
Right.
That's how it works.
Right.
So we're fortunate. Will it be phenomenal if we experience liberation and, equality and, financial independence and all the things that we require and all the things that our ancestors died for? Will it be amazing if we get that in the next 40 years? It would be amazing. The likelihood that it would happen is not as high. And the reason is that the trauma, the very distinct way that our people, that at the attempt of breaking our people, is like nothing that's ever been documented in history. No other people has gone through as much for as long and in the ways that Black community has.
But people do try to compare and contrast. Okay, they sure do try to compare.
There's no comparison, because any population of oppressed people that is not Black that you give, it's either going to be the length of time was not the same. The Holocaust was 10 years. It was 10 years, and Holocaust victims get paid. They got paid. They got reparations. Okay, so we can't compare. We can't compare that. The Native Americans. I love my Native Americans. We also can't compare that. If you are of American Indian descent in this country and you belong to certain tribes, you get a check. Now, does every American Indian?
They don't only get checks; they get land.
Well, we're not going to talk about the land, because the land, the what is happening to the Native Americans, to my knowledge, is beyond inhuman. Okay, it's inhumane. The reservations and the places where populations of Native Americans live are very substandard. They are flooded with disease. Many of the Native American population are dying rapidly from diabetes, alcoholism, drug addiction. It's not like they're living on this quality land. It's like the land that was stolen from them, and then they said, okay, you get a fraction of this land back. And by the way, it's cracked, So, but even them, so I don't have any, and I have nothing but empathy and, compassion for every group of oppressed people throughout history. But I cannot, and I will not make anybody else's pain greater than ours, because no other population has gone through what our population has gone through for the length of time. It has only been in one lifetime that it was even legal for a Black person and a white person to sit at a table. One lifetime, since they were not killing Black people for showing up to vote. One lifetime. Mind you, that means that there's somebody alive right this minute who experienced through that.
Yep.
That's unacceptable.
It's people's grandmothers, great-grandmothers, who they can talk to about it. So
when people say, oh, Black people need to just get over it, you had a Black president, why can't we all just get along? Race doesn't matter.
Show right here.
race doesn't matter.
Yes, you do, because I'm right here. Very melanated.
Race absolutely matters. And it's important that you see my color so that you're able to. Here's the thing. People don't want to see color and I say this all the time, the reason why they don't want to see color is because when they see color, they have to take ownership for the history that exists between the color. Right. And so what ends up happening is it's easier to say we're all human, we're all of the human race, which right. We are in fact all human. However, if you take away the fact that you take away my color, you take away the fact that everywhere I go, I'm identified by that. And that I don't have a choice over it. You can be identified only, if a white person and I go someplace, no one will know who's rich, who's poor, who's anything. Only thing they will know is that that person's white and I'm Black.
It's another form of control. It's another aspect of white supremacy to say the line, I don't see color. So it's just
but it's been passed down. You understand
that's it's their legacy.
It's their legacy to live in denial. See, people don't want to understand that no one wants to own pain caused to other people. Nobody. You're not going to hear any, white supremacist step forward and say, you know what? We really did act a fool, back in the day. We're really
no, people are just quick to say, oh, but that wasn't us. That wasn't me. I'm not racist. I have a Black friend. You know what I'm saying?
But but you're still benefiting from that privilege. And that's the thing that I try to make people understand. Right. You're still getting an interest check on the privilege that you receive from this system that was built on the backs of my ancestors.
That is your ancestors' legacy. Okay. So you have to acknowledge it. And what you say, in order for people to talk about building their own legacy, they have to acknowledge that they're already a part of a legacy that has already been built and passed down. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's the same situation with other cultures. You have to acknowledge that the legacy of your ancestors were wicked to our ancestors, and that generational trauma makes us not really mess with you for real. So
that's the point at which we can have the conversation. So the conversation begins with acknowledgement. Once you acknowledge,
then we can talk about something.
Now we can have a conversation. If you're not willing to sit in that acknowledgement, we're not even beginning to have the conversation because you want me to see it from your narrative, and I'm not able to do that.
Right.
My ancestors were sterilized. They were sterilizing Black women in North Carolina.
Right.
Black men were castrated.
Come on.
Black men were hung.
Right.
And killed.
Right.
With no consequences. Right. Much like they're being killed with no consequences by people that are supposed to protect us.
Right now.
So we're not having the same experience.
And we're not having the same conversation. So that's
why
I don't even talk to certain people.
Yeah, we're not having the same experience as humans. So first I need you to acknowledge that we're having two totally different experiences.
Right.
You're not having to tell your sons and daughters, protocol for how to drive their car if they get pulled over by the police.
Right. Or pray.
You're not having to tell your sons
and door.
You're not having to tell your sons and daughters what colors they can and cannot wear.
Right.
In certain neighborhoods.
Right. Exactly.
You're not having to grow your children up in ways that Black people have to grow their children up.
Right.
You're just not having to do that. They are able to hold on to more of their innocence for a longer period of time because their reality is very different than ours.
Whew. Sis, we need a part two. We need a part two because part one, this is just the surface. We're just scratching right now. We ain't even went there all the way yet, and they probably not even gonna be ready for this one. You know
I know.
What I'm saying? We just scratching. We just scratching the surface. But I am so appreciative of you, Sister Kai. I felt like this was the exact definition of an organic conversation. And we definitely followed some of the questions, but we were definitely chopping it up.
I already knew I was prepared, but I already knew from our conversations what the possibilities were.
We definitely gotta do a part two. It's essential. And I gotta do some more reading before our part two so I can be ready.
You are so silly.
But I am so grateful to you. And what I'm going to ask of you is to spit something for the people and just show them what the author, poet extraordinaire is all about. Okay, I'm gonna go on mute.
This is just something short and sweet because this resonated with my spirit, and I, yeah. Ice cream for Botham Jean. 10 years, 3,650 days for a painful eternity. Hayes, stole that life. Pop, pop, pop. Travesty of justice, absurd violation of humanity. Eating ice cream for Botham Jean. I wrote that poem after she was sentenced, and the judge gave her a hug and a Bible, and his family hugged her, and I just felt like he was unrepresented, he was unsupported, and for me it was like, how could something be, how could it just be minimized? 10 years in prison for a person's entire life. And he was just sitting there eating ice cream in his apartment. And yeah, so that poem was more about speaking to him beyond the grave. Like, if nobody else rides for you, if nobody else cares, if nobody else is passionate about what happened, I care. It matters.
I see you. You are seen.
Yeah. That was me just saying, I see you.
Right.
I see what happened, and
right.
I can't explain it. I don't have any words for why your family was so forgiving. Much like the victims' families of Dylan Roof, they too were forgiving, and I don't know how forgiving they're going to be when he potentially gets pardoned and released, because that is something that is on the table. And I don't know, but I have an article that I talk about the relationship of Black forgiveness and Christianity. It's kind of explosive, so it's not for the meek at heart. I did a lot of research on it, so but I felt compelled to speak on that.
Well, you should definitely share it with me so I can put it into the description of the video when I drop the edited version.
I have one more, so we don't end on a.
We can end however we want to end, but
we can end however we want. That's
I'm open to hearing the next one, because I don't mind, but I don't think it's because I know, sometimes people don't want to end on like a quote unquote negative, but I don't think that's negative. You just brought his spirit into the space and acknowledged him. That's legacy. Okay. So I don't think, I feel like that is positivity right there. That is planting a seed of knowledge and love into the air. So I just want to share that, but I definitely want to hear your next piece. I'm just saying, if we were to end on that, it's going to be okay, because this is Sisters here where we keep it real. Okay. So
we can definitely end on that. I adore you. I'm so grateful that you allowed me this opportunity and kind of pushed me out of my shell, because people be trying to get me to do video, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm. I mean,
So
it was so natural for you though.
I know
Like, it was so natural. Like you're a mother, you're a teacher, you're a mentor already. You coach, like all of these different things. All you have to do is just record it and put it out there. And we got some stuff in the works that people not ready for. This retreat that we're working on is gonna be a beautiful thing. So you sure you don't want to share that last piece?
I will do it. I will.
Okay.
It's untitled, like many of my pieces end up being. I'll probably put a title on it later, but mute the mic, dim the light. I'm shining too bright and not enough. Voice too loud and so low. What the F did I ever know? Who said sunshine didn't come with snow? Cup of heart, drink slow. Frostbite, top lip, bitter cold. First sip, frozen for hesitation, inconsistency, and solace. I give to you a me I can't unsee.
I call Sister Kai my Love Jones poet because she be giving me all the Love Jones vibes. Like we just entered a club, you know what I'm saying? And we over here sipping on something, sipping on some wine, some Akasha. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, I am so grateful. Oh yeah, tea is cool too. It's early. It's early, so we could say tea. But when it reaches a certain time, we sipping on some wine. But I am so grateful for you joining the show, Sisters Heal, where we keep it real. We got some more episodes coming out. Like I said, I know I've been like not doing my shows, but you know, I needed some time for myself to figure out life and figure out what was next. And this is something that I am going to be focusing on and connecting with some other sisters. So if you see this video and you want to connect with me, email me. I'll put my email in the description and we can talk, have a conversation, make sure our values are aligned before I just invite you to my show. But I'm super open to connecting and networking with individuals, specifically Black women, to come together, create a network, and just heal, love, build all together. So once again, I would like to thank y'all for watching Sisters Heal Network, and we'll be having some more episodes coming real soon. So peace, y'all. Peace, Sister Kai. And we will definitely talk soon.
Love and light.
Yes.